Hi, thanks so much for joining Salpo Technologies Deep Dive webinar on cool ways to use our API. We're going to go through a few different ways on how we've used our own API. Our entire system is built off of an open RESTful API, and everything that we've done within our system is run by our own API. So we're using it ourselves in order to collect our contacts, connect to other softwares and things like that. So we're going to show you how we're doing this, and as well as provide some other examples that our clients are using. An API ultimately just allows two different softwares to connect and speak with each other, but it doesn't have to be the typical sense of software of what you're thinking of. So you could be filling out some data on your Excel spreadsheet, tell the Salpo system to collect every time a new row is entered on your Excel spreadsheet to populate that as a new data point within the CRM. So it really is quite flexible, and there's some neat things that you can do with it. Starting off, I'm going to talk to you about our GDPR solution. We have built this whole solution using our own API, and what we've done is build a portal so that our contacts can manage their consent outside of the system. So that it basically automates this process for us, and we're not having to do any manual work. Right now I've got these G's stored against all the personal information against this contact here. So this is all of her standard details in here, and if I click on one of these G's, I can see the red G shows that her consent was denied. I have the date and time that consent was updated, the source, and the description there. And all that information is stored within the system. And so what we've done is create a portal so that when Addison logs in and is able to submit her consent to us, she can update this information. And then that allows us a real-time glance as to what her consent status is. This is our GDPR compliance assistance tool, ultimately, which is this portal. And so we do have some bulk text here. And then our privacy statement, which is built within the CRM. So the portal is grabbing that information. We've added some tick boxes against this front-end type view. And then you can see here all of the different contact details that were stored against Addison's profile page are populating, along with the current status of what her GDPR consent is. So you'll see that this address is marked currently as denied, and if I change that to granted, scroll down and hit submit, it will now update and feed that data back into the CRM system. Now that I've got that confirmation that the details are updated, I'm going to navigate back to Addison's profile page, do a quick refresh, and you'll see that that address G changes from red to green. And so you'll see that update here on the right side of the screen. So this is an example of how you could have data within your CRM, like potentially a property that you want to have your clients update by uploading their own photos and descriptions or information about the dimensions of any of the space in the building. Then you can have your contact update those details within that front-end portal type view and have that data feed back into the CRM system. Another way to use the API is a typical contact us form. On the Salpo website, we do have a contact us form so that our contacts or prospects can reach out to us. So these are all custom fields or standard contact detail fields within the CRM. And upon hitting submit, our API is first checking to see if that contact exists already. And if the contact exists, it's updating any details that they've put within the CRM or adding to the details that are in the CRM. Or the API is checking to see if the contact doesn't exist. And if they don't exist, then they're creating a new contact. We've also triggered it to say that every time someone submits a contact us form, it schedules a reminder for someone on our sales team or our marketing team to reach out to that contact so that they can start that conversation and see what they're interested in and how Salpo can help. Another example of how we're using the CRM is tracking events within the system. I'm going to first show you how we're using events and then also show you how one of our clients is using events within the system. So right now we're using events by tracking webinars. So every time I have a webinar set up on the system, we can put it in here to say the start date, end date, the event type, an event description. So this could just be how to use the Salpo API, an event URL image if we're posting an image, whether it's a picture of myself or a picture of the system and one of the pages that we're reviewing specifically, and then any other details, even the pricing of the event. So if it's $0 right now, it might say free on our website. If there is a price to join the webinar, then it would have a cost associated there. We've also tracked the maximum number of a ticket. So every time someone registers against this event, this maximum number of tickets will stay and remain the same, but we can use our API in the system to let us know that we're almost reaching our ceiling. Then on the front end, when you're looking at our Salpo event pages, you'll see my image, an event description, and any of those details which are stemming from directly within our system here. If I navigate to one of our client sites, if we look at their workshops and training page, you'll see a list of events that they have on their web page. So if you scroll down, you'll see any of these listed events. And if I click into any of the events, I'll see some additional details which are driven based off of the data that's stored against this event within the Salpo CRM. So here I have a title of the event description, the start and end date and time, any key areas of interest, which then populate icons. So if the event had any key topics that they've selected via a multi-select field, then they're populating specific icons associated with that on the page. You can see an additional business card, and then again, this location and event date and time information is all just pulling from the event's profile page. When you connect a speaker using a custom connection, you can store a picture URL against the page so that then the speaker image and biography populate against this page as well. They even have a map using Google Maps, which stems from the address that's added to the contact profile page. And then any other additional information you can continually add against this. So that's just a great way of showing how you can pull that information outside of the CRM and populate it against a website page. Another example is going to be using social media posts and saving them as communications against our system. So right now, if I'm on a contact's profile page and I go to add a communication, I get a window modal that I can type in my notes or schedule follow-ups and information on. But really, if I want to start seeing all of the different types of posts someone's put out there on the web, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram with an image, I can use our API to say anyone with this particular social media handle makes a post populated against their profile page. And right now we have some standardized type of communications methods, but you can create your own methods here and define this as, instead of using other or fax, maybe create a Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So then you can track all those different posts. And then when I'm on that contact's profile page, in between all the different emails and scheduled communications that we have with them, I can actually see all their social media posts as well. So now that you've seen some cool ways to use our API, you may be wondering, what information do I need to do this, or how do I take this next step? Some of our customers have their own development resource teams, and so they may be able to use this information and be able to develop it themselves using the API. Some of our customers also don't have the technical skills to implement those processes, and so they'll reach out to Salpo and ask our development team to step in and do that for them. So you can use one of your own technical resources, or Salpo is also here to assist in getting these cool features set up for you. Your developers, when going through this, are going to need to know all the different ID fields that are associated with the field that you're looking to populate against that Contact Us form or a portal, or what other uses that you want to use from an API. So if I've right now got a bunch of different details in an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm managing some information on that Excel spreadsheet and I need it to populate into Salpo, what I would do using the API is say every single time I enter a value under the fee column, it needs to map against ID 664 within the CRM. So every single one of our fields has its own unique identifying ID, and that would allow our API to understand where you need that data to map. Or if I'm using that Contact Us form from our website, the system's going to need to know, well, you did ask about interests, so what interests then do you need to populate against the system? So the API would request this interests ID field, and then it would also need to know all the different values that can be populated against that field and those IDs. Now that you know all the IDs, what do you do with it from here? Next, you need to create an API token, and that's located under your username in the right-hand corner. There's an API tokens option, and when you click on it, you'll see the different API tokens generated against your account. All I need to do is click on Add API Token, title it, and let's say this is for our Contact Us form, and I'll click Create. Now, this is my API key. This is the only time my API key is displayed, so please make sure that you copy and paste it correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now that you have your API token, your developer is going to ask for the Salpo API reference information. This is all of the different commands that you can use in the Salpo system. So if I then come down to that communications option, just like how we were talking about with using the social media posts, this is where I'm going to find all the different information of any of my communication custom fields, the different types of categories, the method types, the body, meaning the content. So if I want to get content from within the Salpo CRM system, or then if I want to put content in, there are different commands for these different types of actions that you want the system to do. So the developer will help with this sort of information, and every time you click on one of these commands, you get some additional information on how that coding is used and what's required. We also provide a list of the API error codes for your developer, and then they can access additional information via our support center. So if I'm on the support center page, I click into the knowledge base section and scroll down to the developers section. And here this gives you some details on how to generate an API key, which is what we just went through. Then we have the API basics, and this is where it gets a little bit more technical. So you'll see the different types of coding required to execute these actions and commands. So this is all the information that the developer would use in order to create that sync between your two different softwares. So if you have any other questions or want to talk through any case scenarios, don't hesitate to reach out to our marketing team. Or if you're a current customer and want to discuss how to use your current APIs, or if there's anything that needs updating, or if you have a new type of connection that you want to try, don't hesitate to reach out to support@salpo.com. In either way, someone from either team will be able to assist. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you learned some cool new things about how to use the Salpo API.